please. And we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please remain standing because that will be followed by a moment of reflection. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I would like to request the clerk have a reading of the notice, please.
The adjourned organizational meeting of the Marathon County Board of Supervisors, composed of 38 members, will convene at the Marathon County Courthouse, Assembly Room, 500 Forest Street, Wausau, on Tuesday, May 25th at 7 p.m., and the agenda was duly signed and posted.
Thank you. I would like to request everyone in attendance, please put your cell phones on silent or vibrate and any other electronic devices as to not interrupt the meeting. And I would ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Beestrom. Bizotto.
Here.
Boots. Butke.
Here.
Christensen.
Here.
Seiler.
Here.
Conway. Here. Dickinson. Here. Drabeck. Here. Pfeifrick. Fisher.
Here.
Gaber.
Here.
Gibbs.
Here.
Gonering.
Here.
Guild.
Here.
Gums.
Here.
Harris. Jacobson. Johnson. Krause.
Here.
Lamont.
Here.
Longenhan. Leahy. Lowe.
Here.
McEwen.
Here.
Oberbeck.
Here.
Opal. Here. Robinson. Here. Rosenberg. Here. Schley. Seefelt.
Here.
Soybert. Stark.
Here.
Van Cray.
Here.
Vole. Zhang.
Here.
Beestrom. Harris.
Here.
Leahy.
Here.
Schley. Soybert. Thank you.
And we have 31 in attendance. I do know I've had several contacts by supervisors saying that they have lost power and were having difficulties connecting in via WebEx, and some of those have called in, and some of them also have challenges with phones. So I thank everybody for attending. I'd like to welcome all of the visitors that we have, including the viewing audience, and we'll move on to item B, education presentation and/or reports, standing committee chairpersons or designees. Supervisor Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to just give an update from the Human Resources, Finance, and Property Committee. We met earlier this afternoon. We were talking about how do we engage the public relative to the developing a plan for the spending of the American Rescue Plan dollars that have funneled into the county. We received our first of two payments recently of $13,178,290. That money will need to be, that is one of two payments. We'll need to allocate or earmark that money by December 31st of 2024 and spend it by 2026. But there are a number of areas in which we can spend it. We intend to go out to the public and ask them for their ideas in terms of who's been impacted by the pandemic. We can spend it on pandemic-related expenses, lost revenue, and certain infrastructure projects, including broadband expansion and sewer water projects. So we will be engaging over the next couple of months a public participation process, looking to work with the public, targeting groups like the Chamber of Commerce for Wausau, Greater Wausau area, Marshfield, McDevco, and groups such as United Way of Marathon County and other citizens, as well as reaching out to towns and other units of government to try to collaborate and cooperate in planning how we'll spend those dollars to best leverage those investments. They're one-time dollars, and there are limits on where we can spend them, so we'll keep you informed as we go out and try to get that input.
Any other comments by committee chairs or designees? Okay, we will move on to the consent agenda. Item C8 through item C13B2. What is your pleasure? Motion by Supervisor Boots and second by Supervisor Johnson. Is there any discussion on the consent agenda items?
Mr. Chairman,
Supervisor Lamont, go ahead.
can we have the resolution 2921 pulled out for a separate discussion or a separate vote?
Yes, item 13A1, resolution 29-21 will be withdrawn from the consent agenda. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, then we will move with the motion to approve consent agenda items, item C8 through items C13B2, with the exception item 13A1. That one is removed and will be voted on separately. All those in favor of the motion to approve signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Now, adoption of resolution from a Health and Human Services Committee. Item, a resolution to endorse 2021 Wisconsin Senate Bill 239, Wisconsin Legislature Senate Bill 239, Bill Text, Resolution 29-21. What is your pleasure? Motion to approve by Supervisor Johnson. Is there a second? Second by Supervisor Rosenberg. Is there any discussion? Supervisor Lamont.
Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just had a question why we're not following what Milwaukee County does. They have this 24-hour period where they can determine the health of the person, and then the 72 hours starts. Am I understanding that right? We're making it an indefinite time?
I would refer that question to Corp Counsel, please.
I'm not sure about the timing on Milwaukee County, but I know that Milwaukee County has a separate statute that governs its emergency detention. This would be an amendment to the rest of the state.
Further discussion? further discussion?
Can I hear again from the chairman of that committee what the change actually is as far as?
Supervisor Butke?
Yes, thank you. I did reach out to Michael Loy again today as far as what his feeling was on the effect of it. And ultimately, it's to eliminate the pressure of a time frame to give the proper evaluation as to the mental state and health of people that are trying to be evaluated. Otherwise, they're under very strict and may come up with some erroneous judgments in their mental capacity. That is why the request is being made and endorsed both by North Central Health as well as our committee, that this is a good thing to eliminate that time period.
Supervisor Johnson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In practical matters, what this does is you have somebody who's highly unstable having some type of episode, whether it's drug-induced, mental health illness, whatever. The 72 hours starts as soon as they have police contact. You know, the 72 hours, as soon as they're taken into physical custody. And if you take them to the hospital, that clock is running. And it can take sometimes a quite amount of time to get them stabilized before a mental health professional can start the evaluation, and it doesn't give sufficient time to complete it. So that's a practical matter. I will say that I do have some concerns about the open-endedness of it, but I do understand the need for it, but it's something I think we need to keep an eye on, because if we're having routine instances where people are being held for significantly longer, that's something I think we have to, keep an eye on, and I'm sure that Mr. Loy will be doing that at the healthcare center. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
One of the challenges is, as Supervisor Johnson appropriately points out, is once they're taken into custody, there's a medical clearance requirement. And in some cases, that medical clearance may take significant amount of time to be medically cleared to be transported to then North Central Healthcare, where they can be evaluated for the mental illness potential or mental stability of the individual. So that's the reason and the request for the change. Any further discussion?
Can I add something, Mr. Chairman?
Supervisor Lamont, go ahead.
I'm aware of 2 individuals in Florida that were Baker acted, and that's, I believe, a 72-hour hold situation. And I'm just concerned about the rights of a person if they're under the influence or having a mental incapacity, but that could be. I guess I'm concerned about the rights being denied a person if it's indefinite. There's not a set time. I appreciate what's been said about giving them enough time to evaluate them if 72 hours isn't enough. But how long has this been on the state records? Why is it being changed now?
Corp Counsel?
I can talk about this a little bit if you would like me to. This is something that my office actively prosecutes on behalf of Marathon County and on behalf of North Central Healthcare. There have been several changes to this particular statute in the last several years, and the one that has really changed was that time started to run when the individual arrived at the treatment facility, at the facility for the mental health treatment. That was the way the statute originally read. So you could have an individual who had injured themselves in a suicide attempt taken to a hospital, and the 72-hour clock wouldn't even start running until the individual arrived at the treatment facility, because that's where the assessment takes place. And that law was changed to provide that the clock now starts running when the individual is taken into physical custody by law enforcement, and that is a moving target. And actually, I do some of the training with law enforcement because there are a large number of different fact situations that arrive. And I'm sorry if I'm getting a little boring here, but this is the way it works. The individual has to be taken into physical custody by law enforcement. So sometimes that's not necessary. Sometimes an individual makes a suicide attempt, and EMTs show up and they transport the individual to the hospital. The individual is treated, and then a detention is started at the time that they're ready for release from the hospital, essentially starting the clock the way it used to be. But sometimes the individual has made a suicide attempt and they're saying they're in their home and they're bleeding, and EMTs arrive and they're saying, I'm not doing anything. This is what I intended to do. Leave me alone. Well, in those circumstances, law enforcement is going to have to intervene in order to take physical custody of the individual and get them to the hospital to begin the course of treatment. But the clock starts when the individual is taken into physical custody by the officer. So because they decided that the legislature decided that that was going to be the intervening cause to start the clock, then there are fact situations that arrive where individuals need to receive stabilizing medical treatment. And that's the objective of the statute, to permit that to occur given the current state of the definition of when the 72-hour clock starts. So that's something that's very seriously taken by the courts. We are very cognizant of that. Like I said, we do regular training with law enforcement to tell them how to fill out the forms and let us know when the clock starts, because then we're going to have to deal with it. So. This is something that Office of Corporation Counsel does support, because we believe it will give enough flexibility to address different cases. Again, there are the cases where the individual is not acceptable at the treatment facility until they've undergone medical clearance. Again, as I described last week, the reason for the medical clearance is that individuals may have overdosed on a substance that they're not sharing. So there needs to be some lab testing to find out what exactly is going on with this human being. There may be other medical conditions that they're not talking about when the time comes for detention, because again, it's a crisis situation and the individual needs to be medically cleared in order to be accepted at the facility. And sometimes these individuals in crisis are not going to be cooperative with the medical clearance, and it takes some time in order to get those things accomplished. So the fix here is to give some flexibility on the 72-hour clock, but it's something that we're aware of, the courts are aware of, defense counsel is aware of, and this, I think, will actually assist us in making sure that individuals receive the medical treatment that they need for stability, given the crisis situations that are encountered by law enforcement.
Thank you.
I'll add one thing, that I chair the NCHC board, and we have taken a look at this, and one of the policies that NCHC has is we look to the least restrictive measure needed for any citizen, and also the most prompt treatment for those individuals. So NCHC board has also supported this legislation, but truly understands the concern where there potentially could be abuse. Any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, the motion is to approve. Supervisor Krause.
I have a question. Is this surveillance and lab testing and all of this that's being done, is that done over the weekend on Saturdays or Sundays also? And is that included in the time? Do they count that time or not?
I will, Corp Counsel, if you would, please.
Saturdays and Sundays and legal holidays are excluded from the 72 hours. We always ask the law enforcement to indicate the time of that the individual was taken into physical custody, so that we can start the clock, and then we calculate out any time over the weekend or a legal holiday.
Any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, the motion is to approve the resolution endorsing the 2021 Wisconsin Senate Bill 239, Resolution 29-21. All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye. Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Nay.
The motion is carried but is not unanimous. And we will move on to resolutions from Human Resources, Finance, and Property Committee. Item D14, approve 2021 budget transfers for Marathon County Department of Appropriations, Resolution 30-21. Motion by Supervisor Langenhahn and seconded by Supervisor Robinson. Is there any discussion? Just a note, this does require a 2/3 majority vote. I'm going to ask for a roll call because since we have been in session, I've had several notes that town chairmen have been called out due to down trees in the roads, and so they've had to leave the meeting, and to ensure that we have 2/3 of the board approve these motion, we do need a 26. We do have 30 in attendance, so is there any discussion? I would ask the clerk to call the roll on approval of the 2021 budget transfers for Marathon County Department of Appropriations, Resolution 30-21.
Boots. Butke.
Aye.
Seiler.
Aye.
Conway. Dickinson. Drabeck. Pfeifrick.
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye.
Gaber.
Aye.
Gibbs.
Aye.
Gonering.
Aye.
Guild.
Aye.
Gums.
Aye.
Harris.
Aye.
Jacobson. Johnson. Krause.
Aye.
Lamont.
Aye.
Langenhahn. Leahy.
Aye.
Lowe.
Aye.
McEwen.
Aye.
Oberbeck.
Aye.
Opal. Robinson. Rosenberg. Seafelt.
Aye.
Stark.
Aye.
Van Cray.
Aye.
Vole. Zhang.
Aye.
Bizotto.
Aye.
Thank you.
And the motion is carried, and it is unanimous, and we had 31 attending vote, and so thank you. Moving on to item D15, a resolution amending the 2021 capital improvement budget funding for highway projects in the amount of $539,925 transfer from the 2021 Highway Fund Balance, Resolution 31-21. Motion by Supervisor Dickinson and second by Supervisor Conway. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Again, this one does require 2/3 majority vote. And I would ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Butke,
Aye.
Seiler,
Aye.
Conway, Dickinson, Drabeck, Pfeifrick,
Aye.
Fisher,
Aye.
Gaber,
Aye.
Gibbs,
Aye.
Gonnering,
Aye.
Guild,
Aye.
Gums,
Aye.
Harris,
Aye.
Jacobson, Johnson, Krause,
Aye.
Lamont,
Aye.
Longenhan, Leahy,
Aye.
Lowe,
Aye.
Oberbeck,
Aye.
McEwen,
Aye.
Opal, Robinson, Rosenberg, Seefelt,
Aye.
Stark,
Aye.
Van Cray,
Aye.
Zhang,
Aye.
Bizotto,
Aye.
Boots.
And the motion is carried, again, 31, and the motion was unanimous. On to item D16, accepting a donation of property at 1312 North 16th Avenue, Wausau, from the Habitat for Humanity and amending the 2021 budget to account for such donation. Resolution 32-21. What is your pleasure? Motion by Supervisor Longenhan and seconded by Supervisor Robinson. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Again, this is a budget transfer and a budget amendment. Does require 2/3 majority vote. I would ask the clerk to call the roll.
Seiler,
Aye.
Conway, Dickinson, Drabeck, Pfeifrick,
Aye.
Fisher,
Aye.
Gaber,
Aye.
Gibbs,
Aye.
Gonnering,
Aye.
Guild,
Aye.
Gums,
Aye.
Harris,
Aye.
Jacobson, Johnson, Krause,
Aye.
Lamont,
Aye.
Longenhan, Leahy,
Aye.
Lowe,
Aye.
McEwen,
Aye.
Oberbeck,
Aye.
Opal, Robinson, Rosenberg, Seefelt,
Aye.
Stark,
Aye.
Van Cray,
Aye.
Vol, Zhang,
Aye.
Bizotto,
Aye.
Boots, Butke.
Aye.
Thank you.
And again, the motion is carried. The motion is unanimous. Thank you. And we will move on to item E, Human Resources, Finance and Property Committee, Environmental Resources Committee, and Forestry and Recreation Committee. Item E, 17, County Land Exchange in the Towns of Easton and Harrison, Resolution 33-21. What is your pleasure? Motion by Supervisor Rosenberg, second by Supervisor Drabeck. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, the motion is to approve the county land exchange in the towns of Harrison and Easton, Resolution 33-21. All those in favor of the motion to approve signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried unanimously. Thank you. And we will move on to F from the Board of Commissioners, City County Information Technology Commission, approving the City County Information Technology Commission intergovernmental agreement and operating agreement, Resolution 34-21. Motion by Supervisor Johnson. Is there a second? Second by Supervisor Dickinson. Is there any discussion? Supervisor Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The HR Finance and Property Committee reviewed this agreement earlier today and recommended adoption. We wanted to make sure that it ran through a standing committee prior to coming to the board.
Thank you for that announcement. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, the motion is to approve the City County Information Technology Commission intergovernmental agreement and operating agreement, Resolution 34-21. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Item G19, appointment from the City County Information Technology Commission, one each citizen member, Chet Street. All of those, what is your pleasure? Motion by Supervisor Robinson and second by Supervisor Harris. Is there any discussion? Supervisor Krause.
Yes, just because of lack of knowledge and out of curiosity, I would like to know what his job duties are, what he's being designated to do. Thank you.
Well, he's to assist, he's an appointment on the City County Information Technology Commission to help in oversight of the City County Commission itself that runs the technology and information service for Marathon County, City of Wausau, and North Central Healthcare. And his occupation is the IT director at, excuse me, North Central Healthcare or North Central Technical College. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. We will move on to miscellaneous of business. Item H20, announcements and/or requests. Supervisor Johnson, excuse me, Supervisor Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to rise tonight to publicly thank Judy Burrows, who's been in charge of community health at the health department for her years of dedicated service. She's been in leading the efforts on tobacco, alcohol, other drug abuse, substance abuse issues, behavioral health issues, partnering with the Western Marathon County Coalition. Over her 30 years of experience, she's helped guide us through our discussions, and we've had many discussions about outputs versus outcomes, but as a result of her years of service, we have a better, healthier, safer place, and we wish her well in her retirement, which is occurring at the end of this month.
Thank you. Any other announcements? Supervisor Krause.
Thank you. May has been proclaimed Older Americans Month by Wisconsin Governor Tony Evers. There are 1.5 million aging and older adults in Wisconsin who have provided their time, work, life skills, and volunteering to better our communities. In Marathon County, there are 24,000 adults over the age of 65. They provide valuable leadership in their communities, are an inspiration to others, and pave the way for future generations. Let's celebrate May as Older Americans Month.
Thank you. Supervisor Harris.
I'll be brief, but I would be remiss, though, if I didn't acknowledge the significance of today. 1 year ago, George Floyd was killed. He was the father of Gianna Floyd, a 7-year-old who proclaimed her dad would change the world, and that he did. He was an uncle, a brother, a son, and friend to those who knew him, and we must not forget that fact, and my thoughts and prayers are with his family. His death, though, sparked great sadness, pain, calls for change, and protests all over the world. Communities large and small came together to express grief and show solidarity in urging reform and to show support for one another. Our community was one such community, sparking one of the largest and peaceful marches in Wausau and Marathon County's history on June 6, 2020, in memory of George Floyd. In attendance were hundreds of people from our community, every race, nationality, gender, sexual orientation, socioeconomic status, age, physical, mental capabilities, religious beliefs, members of our local government and law enforcement. Our police department, as leaders in this community, were there to ensure the event was safe and passed out water to the marchers, and powerful speakers and several local organizers, including Men and Women for Change and People of Power of Love, were also present and worked tirelessly to bring this event together. Through the pain and grief, we came together as a community in solidarity, support, and love of one another. We not only marched forward, but we showed as a community we could lead the way. We were truly a community that cares, and I just hope that we can remember that moment and use that as a model for how we want to move forward, and that we remember George Floyd and realize that his death, like so many, unfortunately, in our country's history, is a manifestation of hate and fear. We must not give in to the cynicism, fear, vitriol, and the cancer that is hate that led to George Floyd's death. We must instead embrace a redemptive goodwill of love and understanding that must illuminate from the windows of our soul and sound loudly with the thumping of our hearts. This has to be a community that welcomes, that cares, and most of all loves. I love this community. It is a great community, but we must remember that if we are to move forward at all, we must do so united and together, and I pray with all my heart that we will do so. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other announcements? Supervisor Jacobson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd just like to announce the City of Mosinee has welcomed a new police chief. Ken Mealing retired last year, and we recently swore in Chief Ken Grams, who joins us from the southeastern part of the state, many good years of experience. And then we're also bidding farewell to Shane Thatcher, one of our officers, but he'll be joining Marathon County Sheriff's Department, and I think he'll be a great addition. So,
Thank you. Any other announcements? I do have two. Last month, Marathon County was awarded a CDGB grant for $1,100,000, of which $500,000 is going to be administered through McDevco to assist businesses in Marathon County outside of the city of Wausau city limits for all businesses. And then we also are awarded $500,000 of that grant will be utilized by North Central Community Action Program to assist renters who are affected by COVID and or homeowners affected by COVID. And North Central Community Action Program will be the administrators of that program, and there was $100,000 that is allowed for administration of those programs. And that would not be possible without the bringing to the attention to this board and by Supervisor Harris and his attending the region as far as a member on that committee. So I want to extend my sincere thank you to Supervisor Harris for his efforts in bringing $1,100,000 to Marathon County to assist the homeowners, renters, and businesses in this community affected by the COVID pandemic. I would also be remiss if I didn't recognize the efforts of one of our own, Scott Corbett. Scott Corbett started working for Marathon County back in 1990. He was appointed the Corporation Counsel in February 2008, and he has been serving those citizens, the citizens of Marathon County, this board, and all the citizens of Marathon County, including administration, during his tenure as Corp Counsel. This will be his last meeting. There is going to be a recognition and acknowledgement of his commitment to the service of the citizens on May 27th, Thursday, from 11 to 1 o'clock in this room, the assembly room. So if you are inclined and have an opportunity to stop by and congratulate Mr. Corbett for his 30-plus years of dedicated service to the citizens. And in particular, I want to personally thank him. He has assisted me as Corp Counsel my whole tenure as chair of the board. And personally wish him well in his next endeavor, which happens to be also serving the citizens of Marathon County as the next judge in the 6th Circuit in Marathon County. So I think we owe Mr. Corbett a great round of applause.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can I have a moment to just say thank you?
Absolutely,
Thank the board.
Mr. Corbett. Go ahead.
I remember the commencement speech when I graduated from college, and the commencement speaker said, "Tomorrow you'll be 40 years old, and you won't know what happened." I'm 60 years old, and I really don't know what happened since 1990, but I just want to tell you how grateful I am to this board for giving me a job for 30 years. I've been able to raise a family here in Wausau, and we've been very happy. I want to first thank Bill Drengler, who was the corporation counsel at that time, who hired me, and I appreciated that very much. And I want to thank my wife, Liz. She was saying, "Are you going to be on YouTube tonight?" And I said, I think I am. So if she's watching out there, Liz, thank you very much. And I won't go on to name every department head that I've worked with. I just want to say that I'm very grateful to Keith Langenhahn, who was the chair when I took over. Mort McBain was the county administrator. Brad Karger, I also worked with him, and Gary Wyman, and also obviously Kurt and Lance. It has been an honor and a privilege to work with both of you, and I appreciate it. I feel good about the scenario with the Corporation Counsel. Mike Pierner is the deputy. He's seated in the back here. I feel good about turning over the reins to him, and I know he will serve you well. I can say that to the extent that I had any success as being Corporation Counsel, I owe to the board. I have always asked that if you have a question, please call me or email me and give me a chance to try to do the work to respond to your questions. And obviously things come up in meetings that we haven't thought about before, but I have from the bottom of my heart appreciated the fact that you have called me and asked me and sent me emails to let me know what issues you want me to address. And I know if that kind of thing continues, that the new Corporation Counsel will have a success as well. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, I forgot an announcement.
Supervisor Johnson, go ahead.
Thank you. I forgot. I just wanted to make folks aware, small business owners aware, that starting yesterday, they can apply for a $5,000 grant from the American Rescue Act. It's being administered by the state of Wisconsin, and it is for small businesses with revenues, with gross revenues between $10,000 and $7 million. So it's going to hit a ton of small businesses in this county, and I'd hate to see some small businesses miss out on it. It's a relatively short window for the application, started yesterday, and I believe ends in June. So just wanted to make sure folks were aware of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other announcements? Seeing none, then we are down to item H21. What is your pleasure? Supervisor Longenhan with the motion and Supervisor Opel with the second to adjourn. Any discussion? All those in favor of adjournment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed,
Aye.
same sign.
Aye.
Motion carries. We stand adjourned. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for all of your efforts.